Call to order at 6 o'clock. My name is Delray Pope. I will be chairing the meeting tonight on behalf of Mr. Bruno, who is in attendance via live stream. Quick roll call. Trustee Lee.
Aye. Present?
Trustee Kelly.
Aye.
Trustee
Present.
Anderson.
Yeah. Present.
And President Bruno.
Present.
Thank you. Flag salute. In recognition of free speech and the following board agenda item, we welcome all and would like to note that saying the Pledge of Allegiance is not recommended to participate in the business of this board. If you do not say the pledge, you are most welcome here as an equal participant of the business of this board. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Organizational reports. CUTA, Ms. Mason.
Do we need to vote on the agenda or an offer discussion? I don't have any discussion, but
I said approval. Did I say approval or discussion?
Said approval.
First, second, but I don't believe there was an actual vote.
Oh, yes, let's do a roll call. Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
no problem.
Dr. Lee.
Aye.
Trustee Kelly.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
President Bruno.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. I apologize. Thanks, Kelly. CUTA organizational reports. Is Ms. Mason on?
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, hi, good evening, everybody. Sorry I'm tuning in via computer this month. I'd like to congratulate all the continued list of retirees for this school year. This month, Tracy Malloy from Dudley has chosen to retire after 30-something years in service to Center, so congratulations to her. And then I'd like to welcome our new administrator, Allison Kent at Riles. We look forward to working with her. The teachers union and Allison have always had a great relationship, so we look forward to continuing that. And then, boy, there was a long list of certificated staff members on the new hire list that have chosen to make Center their new home. And I hope everybody out there welcomes them just like we would a family member at a Thanksgiving dinner, just like we always do here at Center. Last month in May, CUTA held their elections, and so it looks to be that you'll be stuck hearing from me for the next 2 years as president. And lastly, in my report, we're excitedly looking forward to negotiating the governor's new COLA that he's put forward into the school budgets and that Lisa Coronado has presented on. So we're looking forward to making it so that teachers are encouraged to make Center their home and that they really look forward to getting a paycheck from us. And that's the end of my board report.
Any questions for Mrs. Mason? And I wouldn't say we're stuck. We are glad to have you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thanks, Mrs. Mason. CSEA Naisha Harris will not be present tonight, so we will jump to committee updates. We're going to start with a facilities update since Mr. Mike Jordan is not present tonight as well.
Good evening, board. June usually starts the busy time for facilities, and so I actually have a detailed list going for everybody so we can run down this. Number one, Rex Fortune site is moving along rather well. All the roof systems for the modular buildings are all in place. Today they poured 135 yards of concrete for the slab of the MP room. The slab for the admin library building is slated for mid-July, and right now that site is currently about 2 weeks ahead of schedule. So that is good news for us. Next item is we are finishing up the lighting upgrade at the CHS library, changing out the old metal halide and fluorescent lights with new LED lights that are completely programmable, smart technology. There's a sensor, so you could actually be in a corner of the library. It'll pick up that motion and sound, not to turn off the lights on you. So you could be somewhere else in the library and it'll still keep lights active because it'll sense that you're there. Once the company is done with that, they'll move over to the Riles Middle School, and then they will start doing the lighting upgrade in both the MP and the gym. And those will go from the old fluorescent metal halides over there as well to the new LEDs. Over at North Country, we'll start some work in July repairing all the trip hazards around the campus where we've got concrete that's raised up due to tree rooting problems or other items. We'll also be removing several trees due to the danger that they pose in the coming years. I've also been working with one of our architecture firms for revising our fence plan for North Country. It'll probably be a two-phase because one part we do not need DSA approval, but for another part we do need DSA approval. So we may do this as a two-phase approach so we can start getting that site done up with a fence to have everybody safe there. And then on the last item, here at Center High School also, we're gonna be doing a roof replacement in the 200 wing for rooms 210 through 212.
Busy, busy, busy. That's
That is
it, yeah.
That is it for just
Yeah.
right
What do you do
now.
in your spare time?
I'm working on stuff in my own house.
Which means that's not getting done.
Thank you, Mr. Putnam. Is there any questions for Mr. Putnam? Okay, we will go directly to comments from the audience regarding items not on the agenda. Just a reminder, board may not discuss or take action on any items that are not on the agenda. The speaker will have 3 minutes. And I do have one, Howard Ballard.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak here this evening. I just wanted to reiterate, I spoke at the last board meeting and it wasn't a regularly scheduled meeting, I realized, but I was provided the opportunity and I brought up the safety and security of, it's not on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you want it lower, I see. I brought up the safety and security of the students and facilities, which I think is paramount in light of the incident that occurred last month in Texas, and I wanted to be sure that this board takes into consideration all matters relating to that subject and ensuring that we as a community and this district, this board, the staff does everything conceptually possible in order to maintain the safety and security of our students. One thing I brought up was I think there should be more of a public face to that, and I brought up the fact that the Twin Rivers School District Police Department, when they first came on board, had a representative that spoke at each board meeting, and I think that to me as a community member, and if I don't currently have children in the district, but if I did, I would feel a lot more comfortable paying attention to the board meetings and the going-ons of the district in hearing a report from that organization as to what is taking place to ensure the safety of my child in the school. So I hope you take that in consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Mr. Putnam, when is the first safety meeting?
We'll be starting to do that again in probably August. We'll let everybody get settled in, so if not August, it'll definitely be sometime in September.
Okay.
But I'm shooting for August, because that way we can kind of get the ball rolling from the get-go.
And just based on the comments at last meeting, we have scheduled for an updated our August 17th meeting, and we'll cover a lot of the stuff we're doing and the trainings we've been to and the relationship with Twin Rivers. So I think while we're doing a lot, we can always do more and do it better. So I think bringing it more public can only help us. So anyway, so August 17th, there will be a report on that for sure.
Mr. Lair, the school safety plans available to the public to look over at the district office if they wanted to?
They're actually in every school office, and they're also posted online, and they're also in the board packets. So they are accessible. Now, the public ones are redacted for some things, like where we evacuate and stuff like that, because we don't want to give
Right.
a
there's
potential bad guy.
A fine line.
Yeah. So it is out there, and there's a template that we use that's from the state that's actually was updated again this year that we do, and then the safety plans are all approved by in March or by March.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lair. Are there any comments online? Or comments at nothing? Okay. We will continue to consent agenda.
What about comments from the board?
Oh, yes, I think
Oh,
this
no,
is
public
public
comment?
comments. This
Okay.
is public
Okay,
comments.
sorry, my bad.
Okay. We are going to go to consent
Sorry.
agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you,
I think it was.
Mrs. Anderson. Thank you. Roll call vote. Trustee Lee?
Aye.
Trustee Kelly?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
And President Bruno?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Business items.
Ms. Pope, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
what did
before
I
we
do?
move on, can I just acknowledge that we do, just Mrs. Kent is the principal that you just approved for Wilson Riles. Just want to acknowledge that she's in the room. But then while we have a long list, as Ms. Mason said, of new employees, just to acknowledge the two Center High School vice principals that you also approved, Ms. Nikki Strong and Rogelio Jaime. And so we're looking forward to the three of them coming on. Two are new to the district, one has come up through the district. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and appreciate that, and thank you, Ms. Kent, for being here, and we look forward to you leading Riles. So thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. And a little fun fact, my son Matthew is home, and I mentioned to him, hey, do you know Miss Wiggins? Do you remember her? Because prior to Miss Kent, she was Miss Wiggins. And he goes, yeah, absolutely. I said, well, now she's the Riles principal. So he says, congratulations. And I just mentioned to Miss Kent that she was one of the original teachers at Riles when it started with, at that time, Mrs. Duplessis. So nice to have you back. Okay, business items. Business item A, do I have a motion to bring business item A, a second reading of policies and regulations and exhibits to the floor for discussion?
Actually, I'd like to move to approve the entire packet as presented.
I would like to have discussion first, so.
We can have discussion with an approval.
Okay, I understand, but I'm asking for discussion first, and then we're gonna do the
Yeah, no.
approval. Can I have first for a motion to discuss?
Okay, so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Bruno. Is there any discussion? Is there any public comment? Okay. May I have approval for business item A, the
So
reading?
moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
As an entire.
As a block, correct?
Block,
Okay,
yes,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Lee. Roll call vote. Trustee Lee?
Aye.
Trustee Kelly?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
President Bruno?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Business item B, declaration of need for fully qualified educators 2022/2023 school year. Do I have a motion to bring it to the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Is there any public comment? Nothing? Is there any board discussion? Okay, may I have an approval for business item B? A
So
motion
moved.
for approval. Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Second. Roll call vote. Trustee Lee?
Aye.
Trustee Kelly?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
President Bruno?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Business item C, 2022-2023 Local Control Accountability Plan. Do I have a motion to bring it to the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Lee. Is there, we had discussed this in depth with Ms. Coronado. Is there any other comments you'd like to make, Ms. Coronado?
So this is the LCAP. So what we did was, last week we did present it for the public hearing. So if, I know I did receive some feedback and some suggestions. We've made those changes. We've also now taken it to SCOE for kind of pre-approval, because before we get to the Sacramento County Office of Ed, they actually do the final approval. So we try to get to them before this meeting, and they signed off on it as well.
Oh, very good. Is there any, yes, I'm sorry. Was there any public comments, Ms. Carroll? Okay, any board discussion?
I just want to say thank you again to all the people that are involved, because, wow, that's such a huge report, and it's a lot of thought and a lot of collaboration with the budget, and it's just really, thank you.
I did what Ms. Kelly said.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of work. Okay, we're going to jump to business item D, budget for fiscal year 2022. Oh, that's cake. Yes. See, Mr. Bruno, you're not the only one that has mistakes. Do I have a motion to approve business item C? Thank you.
moved.
Thank you, Mrs.
Second.
Anderson. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. She's second. May we have roll call vote? Trustee Lee.
Aye.
Trustee Kelly.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
President Bruno.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Now we will continue with business item D, budget for fiscal year 22-23. Do I have a motion to bring it to the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Anderson.
And there were no changes to the budget. There
Oh.
were no suggested changes to the budget, no public comment. So it is the same as last week. And again, I will make changes after the state adopts their budget. So in August, I'll bring the 45-day update to you.
Very good. Thank you. Is there any public comment, Carol? Thank you. Any board discussion?
Same comment?
Same comment? Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve business item D, the budget for fiscal year 22-23?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Roll call vote. Trustee Lee.
Aye.
Trustee Kelly.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
President Bruno.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. We'll continue with business item E, resolution number 31, 2021-2022, resolution of the Board of Trustees for the Center Joint Unified School District. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. School
just listening.
District adopting the proposal to limit the number of consecutive terms a member of the governing board may serve, ordering an election on the proposal, establishing specifications on the election order, and requesting consolidation of other elections occurring on November 8th, 2022. Do I have a motion to bring it to the floor for discussion?
I motion to bring it to the floor for discussion because this item was requested by my constituents. In our previous meeting, we did not honor their request to consider it.
Thank you, Trustee Lee. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what she said about.
She said yes, she motioned.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Is there, Ms. Trustee Lee, did you want to make a comment on this?
Are we in discussion?
Yep, now we are.
Oh, okay. So, yes, I did want to make a comment on it. There was,
Speak closer to the mic, please.
yes, can you hear me?
Yes, better, thank you.
Yes, I wanted to bring this back for reconsideration because, you know, it was requested by constituents in my office hours, and it was brought to the board with that in mind. And I really wanted to make sure that we just honored their opportunity to be heard because there was a lot of technical difficulties when this item came up at our last meeting. So in the research of it, it was discovered that we have about $10 million of funds that we can spend, one-time funds that we can spend any way we like. And the cost of this to our board, to put this measure on the ballot, to bring it to the voters, to let them tell us what is their will in terms of term limits, would be about $2,000. So $2,000 of a $10 million budget that we have to spend any way we wish. And I think it's really important that one of my backgrounds is in civic engagement and in civic education. And when term limits are not in place, democracy becomes at risk. It's super important to have a turnover of ideas, perspectives, ideologies on any governing body. When someone sits in a position for too long, it leads to stagnation. And I think we've seen that in some ways. So I'm really just hoping that we can consider this in a meaningful way, thinking of it in terms of cost-benefit analysis. What do we lose? $10 million budget that we have, $2,000 of it, that gets it to the voters. Then they tell us, yes, we want term limits for this board, or no, we don't. I don't think we lose anything by just looking at some basic principles of democratic governance.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Is there any public comment? Please state your name, Mr. Ballard.
Howard Ballin, member of the community. I heard about this at this last meeting. I think I'm the only member of the community here. So I can't speak for the community, but I can speak for myself. I am not one who believes that the will of the people should be circumvented in any way. So with that said, I would not be in favor of this resolution. People have a right to elect whom they choose, and I think this could, while perhaps, as Trustee Lee stated, allow some fresh blood, it would also prevent the ability of some people, many in the past who have served on this board for great lengths of time, who donated their time, their blood, their sweat, their tears. As an example, former Trustee Bender, I believe it was almost 30 years as a trustee, who devoted all his free time to this community and to this school district. That kind of dedication you're not going to find in a lot of people, and by implementing this resolution, you would be preventing those kinds of people from, contributing to this district and to the children and parents and families of this district. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Point of information, I'd just like to clarify that this resolution does not instantiate term limits. Instead, it puts the measure on the ballot and lets the voters tell us whether they would like to see term limits implemented or not.
Ms. Carroll, is there any public comments? There is not. Is there any board discussion? No?
I will, I have a little bit to say. I agree with what Howard is saying as far as, the will of, the voters voting for who they want. And yes, I understand that term limits can be damaging in some cases, particularly like with the Senate, the legislature. But at a local level, when we have a board of 5 people and we struggle to fill those 5 seats every election, limiting it could potentially cause a problem. Obviously, anyone who wants to run for the board is able to do so, and I can only speak for myself. I love this job, but if somebody else was voted in, I would be happy to relinquish the responsibility. So and I don't think it's necessarily a given that people who are on the board for a long duration of time are dead blood. Like, I just don't agree that that's necessarily, they're not mutually exclusive.
I will add, the people have their voice every election with their vote.
Every 2 years.
Pure and simple. They vote you in or they vote you out.
Trustee Bruno, I forgot to look at the TV. Did you have a comment?
He did.
Yes, I do.
I apologize.
First of all, I want to apologize. I missed the public comments on this issue because my internet cut out. I had to relocate slightly. But I wanted to make the comment that in my limited experience on the board, I've found those who have more experience to be tremendously helpful, helping me learn how to do the job, learn the ropes, giving me guidance. and I've really appreciated that. And I do think that experience in this position is quite beneficial. I think term limits in some cases are incredibly beneficial, particularly when it's a position where you can use your influence to help change the elections or do something to help keep you in power. For instance, if you're going to be changing voter districts or things like that, well, then term limits are very useful to help prevent that power from being abused. But on a school board, I don't find the same necessity for them. Additionally, looking back at the election history through 2000, we often have only a couple more candidates than there are seats available on any given election. And 2020 was the biggest margin of percentage margin of candidates to seats, where we had 5 candidates for 2 seats. Also in 2002, we had 6 candidates for 3 seats. However, 3 separate times within the past decade, in 2014, 2016, and 2018, we had exactly as many candidates as we had seats. If we start excluding qualified candidates through term limits, we may not be able to have a full board. Additionally, in 2020, when Nancy was appointed to the board, she was the only applicant for that position. If we had excluded her due to term limits, we would have had an incomplete board. And additionally, in 2006, if we had instituted term limits, instead of 4 candidates for 3 positions, we would have only had 2 candidates for 3 positions. In 2008 and 2012, instead of 3 and 4 candidates respectively for 2 positions, we would have had only 2 candidates for 2 positions. I don't think that taking qualified candidates off the ballot in any way benefits the district. I think that, quite frankly, when we're having trouble getting qualified candidates to apply for vacancies and to run for board seats, I don't see limiting the candidate pool to be beneficial at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bruno.
Mrs. Puff? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in view of, our thoughts as far as that term limits may be limiting, but yet at the same time, 2 of us have expressed that we understand term limits are beneficial. I feel that if we brought it to the voters, there would be confusion. People who are in favor of term limits at a very high level at Senate or legislature or whatever would vote for it, not really understanding the dynamics that happen in a school board. And so my concern is that they would pass the term limits and it would be detrimental in the long run.
Saying that they wouldn't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to be condescending to our voters, but at the same time,
Confusion.
If it had been me prior to being on the board and I saw term limits, I would have been like, yeah, that's a great idea, and I would have voted for it. So,
I would just like to add that just because we have a COVID windfall of money one-time money in the reserves right now, does not mean that we can frivolously throw it away. That same $2,000 could buy band equipment or uniforms for a team or any number of things that are needed in the district. We know that we don't need an election to tell us this. None of the other districts in Sacramento County have term limits. None of the lower offices in Sacramento County have term limits that I'm aware of, even though that was stated in a meeting. I just don't see us needing to go there at this point or needing to spend the money at this point for that action.
And I'd like to just add that we could spend money on many things, but we're not. The money's just sitting there. So the point was to think of this in terms of a cost-benefit analysis to the community. I disagree with Trustee Bruno's analysis of it. I don't think this action is meant to look retroactively to what could have happened in the past. The term limits wouldn't take effect until and if they were approved by the voters, and they would be for 8 years for folks who've been in place, would still have 8 more years to affect a change in this district. I see our black and brown racialized students struggling here. They have been struggling for years. Nothing has changed in the ways that it needs to. And I think it's important that we look at that data, and if the number one priority of this board is the achievement of all students, then why are our racialized black and brown students continually to struggle? It must be something with leadership and vision. How can you fix that potentially? New people. I have faith in the voters. I don't think that they wouldn't understand a measure put before them. And I also think that if every single member of this sitting board here today was to unfortunately perish, that people in this community would stand up, and this board would continue, and the district would continue. I don't think we're the saviors. I don't think the answers are all up to us, and that's why I continue to support this resolution, to put it to the voters and let their voices be heard.
Your comments are so wrong. If you knew the
Hold on,
history.
it's Trustee Bruno's has the floor.
Go ahead.
Trustee Bruno?
Thank you. I just want to say that while this policy doesn't affect the past, I was trying to show in the past what the pattern is for the number of candidates that we tend to receive, and use that to extrapolate what is likely to happen in the future. We can't know for sure what will happen, but by looking at the history, we can extrapolate what is likely to happen. And as far as policies to help any demographic of students, by all means, let's bring forward concrete ideas on how to help these students. But this, frankly, I don't see benefiting students in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Mrs. Anderson?
I would just like to point out that Wilson Riles was a black man. We just named another school after Rex Fortune, a black superintendent who was in this district for 15 years, who has gone off and started his own teaching academy and schools for children. A man who's dedicated his life to education and has brought teachers into our district for many, many years. I don't think Dr. Lee knows the history of this district. I don't think she knows what we have done to bring teachers to this district from minority groups. I think that her whole purpose here is just to cause a problem for the district. I don't know what she has against me.
Point of
I don't know why
privilege,
she wastes
please
her
stop
time.
with the personal attacks. You're violating board policy
You
on
hit-
on
no,
civility.
No,
Mrs.
Yes,
you
you
attacked
are.
me.
Stop. Mrs. Anderson?
I think her time would be better spent trying to
Point of
help
privilege.
the board
Mrs.
instead of
Anderson,
fighting the board.
please control the negative comments towards
So
another
I will
board
call
member
for a
in this
vote.
office. I do have a comment to say.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. I didn't mean to interrupt. You were talking about a cost breakdown analysis. If you have that available, I would like to see the cost breakdown. Please? Okay. That was my only comment. Is there any?
I was speaking on a cost-benefit analysis and pointing out that the amount that we would spend and the benefits, the potential benefits to the community were important. And I also want to comment on this whole performative understanding of racial equity and equity in general. It's a big problem. Naming a school after a black person or a street or a placard or anything else is performative. It doesn't do anything to impact the achievement of black and brown racialized students, and we see that in the data and in the numbers.
So can I still see your cost, your analysis, if you have the figures in front of you, or can you send them to me via email?
The $10 million budget, that was given to us by Ms. Coronado.
Well, you said you had a breakdown, so there was, you got the 10,000, you got 2,000, whatever.
2,000 is the cost that Mr. Lair indicated to me
Okay,
it would
okay. Is
cost
there
to put
any
it on the
other
budget.
figures associated with this breakdown?
No.
Okay, just
no.
the 10,000 and the 2,000?
$2,000 is the cost to put this measure on the ballot, to bring it to the voters to decide, of the $10 million that we have currently to spend any way we wish.
Ms. Kelly?
Yeah, I don't mean to speak for Mrs. Anderson, but my interpretation of what she was saying is that Dr. Lee specifically spoke to the leadership in this district and what leadership has done to try and resolve disparities, racial disparities, et cetera. And I think the point made was that we've had leadership throughout the history of this district that has worked on that specific topic. We are working on that specific topic. We're not stagnant in our opinions or our methods at all. We want to move forward. We know what we need to do. We're implementing several measures. We're taking equity training. We're training the staff on implicit bias. We have curriculum that is being revised on a regular basis to include communities of color, and I find it to be very insulting to say that the leadership is not focused on an issue that we all agree is an issue. We are all working on it and doing the best that we can to make sure that the changes that need to happen will happen. We're not stagnant. We are not blind to the issue, and we are not ignoring it.
Trustee Bruno?
Okay, first of all, I want to say that discussing the performance of our students and what actions we are or aren't taking as a board, quite frankly, is irrelevant to the topic of whether or not we should have term limits.
It was brought up.
I don't think we should go down that road. I think we should focus on the issue of term limits themselves and not as a reflection of individuals. And additionally, as far as a cost-benefit analysis, my personal opinion is that having a negative benefit and a positive cost results in a negative cost benefit. But one thing that I want to make sure that we factor in, Superintendent Lair, I'm hoping you might have an answer for this, and I apologize for springing this on you last minute. If we had an insufficient number of candidates for board vacancies, what would be the additional costs we would incur at that point for having an incomplete board?
I don't have an exact answer, but it depends on when that filling of that vacancy would occur. If we have, it's all outlined in board policy. So if we have a regularly scheduled election, as this measure being put on is a regularly scheduled, the cost is much more reasonable. If it's an out-of-cycle type election, the price is more. I know we did an out-of-cycle, 05, I think it was, and it was, I think about 50 or 60,000 as an out-of-cycle election. When we did, it was a recall election back in the day. So I don't have a specific, that's something we could certainly look into. I don't know.
Okay, so I want to make it clear that the cost of this isn't just what it would cost to put it on the ballot, but the potential additional costs down the road if we are unable to fill board seats. This could result in an ongoing cost for each election that we have to do.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. Do I have a motion to?
We don't have an action item
Question.
on the table.
I'm going to motion.
Question real quick. How long did the Dyers spend on the board?
I don't know about Dyers, but
They're the-
Gould has been on the board
Goulds. Their family was on the board
over about 100 years.
about 100 years,
Yeah.
and I think the Dyers were the same. It's
Could
a
be.
very proud history that Center has.
Yeah.
Diversity.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve business item E, resolution number 31, 2021-2022?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Okay, motion dies on the floor. Board and superintendent report.
Should that have been I'm sorry, a point of parliamentary inquiry. Should that have been a vote and not
We
on the
motioned-
resolution?
I asked for a motion for approval, and we didn't get a
For
second.
approval, so should it have been a vote, or I'm?
Unless there's a second.
Yeah, there wasn't a
Oh,
second.
I see. Okay.
So it goes to the floor.
So then it doesn't go on record what the different perspectives were. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because there was not a vote. Board and superintendent report. Dr. Lee.
Yes. All right. Happy Pride Month, everyone. This is the time we commemorate the 1969 Stonewall uprisings and the ongoing struggle for LGBTQ+ equality. This is also the time when we celebrate the many contributions from LGBTQ+ people to make America great. Also, happy Immigrant Heritage Month, everyone. This is the time when we recognize ourselves as a nation of immigrants and all of the things immigrants have done to make America great. As we continue to navigate COVID and other uncertainties in our world, including wars between nations and rampant school violence here at home, I just want to note and extend my heartfelt understandings to the people who were negatively affected and often disproportionately negatively affected by this global pandemic. People who look like me and who look like you. For some of us, this pandemic has been a mere inconvenience or interruption to our privilege that we are happy to get along with our lives as quickly as possible about. But for some of us who have family members and friends who have lost their lives, who see our loved ones and friends struggling with long COVID, or have family members and friends whose lives were forever changed in so many ways by this pandemic, I offer you grace and kindness and understanding. Our district is aware of these complex needs, and so I appreciate the mental health and wellness supports that the district is offering to our staff and students, and the extra steps we are taking to check in with everyone as we move ahead. Sometimes you cannot tell by looking at someone or their test scores or their outer appearance just how much they may be tormented or struggling inside. So thank you, Mr. Lair and the district staff, for caring for all of our members of our community, great and small. I recognize that for some of us, hopping into the streets and the events and the ceremonies and the getting back to normal is perhaps not an option yet. And so I appreciate that the pictures Mr. Lair and the staff shared of our graduation ceremonies. I really enjoyed viewing those and seeing our students in their moments of celebration, and I really appreciated the opportunity to experience the magic of those events last month in a way that was safe and healthy. And I appreciate that my colleagues were able to be in attendance at those events last month in the ways that were best for them. Thank you to my constituents who have dropped into my office hours, whether you found the link on my personal website or on the board website or however you found me. It's been amazing being in community with you during these most uncertain and strange times. As we look forward, I will continue to hold my virtual office hours to best serve and connect with all of you. And I'll see you again on August 1st, none in July, that falls on Independence Day, from 4 to 5 on Zoom, August 1st, 4 to 5. Drop in any time during the hour. I'm here and there to hear from you. In the meantime, be safe, be well, and be kind to one another. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Lee. Trustee Kelly?
Thank you, Mrs. Pope. Really not a whole lot to say other than that the graduations were fantastic. Since we didn't have board reports last week, I was unfortunately unable to join for the Riles graduation due to work obligations, but the McClellan, as always, is such a tearjerker. I mean, it's a joke among this board how much I cry, but there's not a dry eye in the room at McClellan's graduation. Those kids really work hard, and those staff and teachers are just amazing with those kids. And I just want to say thank you for that and congratulations to all the graduates. And then for the high school, it was really fun to get back to a normal graduation. And one of the observations I made was that the students were all so mature and respectful and of a certain, it's like each class has its own personality, and this one was just unbelievably mature, responsible, efficient. We got done in like record time, 45 minutes, and it was great. So it was a really great graduation. Congratulations to all of our graduates. That is it.
Thank you. Mrs. Anderson?
I agree, graduations were wonderful. And they are very emotional. I wouldn't miss one.
The rose ceremony.
Oh, the rose ceremony is great. I wish we could do it at all of them. I really do. But anyway, I repeatedly sit up here and end up getting attacked in one way or another. And I'm tired of it, and the board's tired of it. Somehow we end up with board members once in a great while that seem to just want to attack. They don't want to help. They don't want to attend meetings. They don't want to do anything for the district. They just want to cause a problem. And sometimes we end up there. So we do the best we can and we get through it.
Mrs. Anderson? Let's try not to make personal attacks on other board members, please.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. So I look forward to the summer break. I think we can all use it, and we'll see you back at the next board meeting.
Thank you. Trustee Bruno?
Looks like we lost Trustee Rodriguez.
I want to kind of reiterate what Trustee Kelly said. The graduations were absolutely wonderful. Yes, we do joke about how much she cries.
Uh-oh, you froze.
Did you freeze? I hope.
Well, luckily you didn't freeze in an awkward position.
Oh no. I was just saying that the graduations, I'm going to accelerate my board report here. The graduations were wonderful. I enjoyed being a part of them, and I was really honored to be able to sign the diplomas. That's been the highlight of my time on the board. But I also wanted to say, at the last meeting, it was suggested that the public should draw their own conclusions about why the board acted or voted a certain way. And I would actually recommend that if you have questions about why we act or vote certain ways at meetings, please send us an email. We are literally the most accessible level of government that there is. And if you reach out and contact us, we'd be happy to communicate with you. So rather than reaching your own conclusion, please send an email and ask it. I would be more than happy to explain any of my votes or motions or anything like that anytime. Also, I do want to give a hearty thank you to Eugene and Lauren for all of their support with the meetings and with Zoom and everything. You guys are doing a great job. I know that I tease you guys, but I really do appreciate you. And I also wanted to give a great thank you to Carol for making changes to this meeting's agenda at the last minute. We really are lucky to have you supporting us, and I thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Superintendent Lair?
I will also probably keep it a little bit brief, but I did want to acknowledge Trustee Lee, thanks for bringing that up about the photos. Mr. Grimes, thank you for taking those photos, and then he put them in that great album. So I thought that was great. That was one way we're able to celebrate and get those pictures out, but also the live streaming. So Lauren, we'll do the Lauren Love Fest here, but thank you, Lauren, and to the department for making that accessible for, people who couldn't make it to the event. So I think that was well done, and they're always getting better and better, so thank you. Additionally, summer school is going very well, if you can believe it. Tomorrow is the end of week 3, and then we have one more week, and then summer school is done, and we're officially in summer. With that, I'm going to wish everyone a wonderful and hopefully relaxing summer. I hope we can take the time we need to rest and recover, and we're already gearing up for next year. So I know we'll be taking some time as well. So anyway, thank you, and that concludes.
Thank you, Superintendent Lair. I just have a couple comments. I was going to say the same thing, Mr. Bruno, about our constituents. If you have any comments, concerns, anything that you want brought to the agenda, or you have a question, please do email each and every one of us. It's very important that we do hear from you. I do want to say congratulations to Katie Edwards, who is the Teacher of the Year. She is from Oak Hill. I didn't mention that last time. Like everybody said, graduation was amazing. The rose ceremony does bring tears to everybody's eyes. Mrs. Hunt, I want to reiterate what Mr. Bruno said. Thank you for adjusting the agenda for this month. But not only that, the several calls and the texts and everything I do to bother you out throughout the day, multiple times. And I don't mean to be a pest, but you are a wealth of information, and I appreciate you as well. Happy summer, everybody. And that's my board report. So advanced planning, our next meeting will be August 17th at 6 o'clock in the boardroom right here at the District Annex, 3243 Center Court Lane. Is there any suggested agenda items?
I do.
Yes.
I think we need to take a peek at the times for the meetings so that we're regularly going right to 6 o'clock for the closed session and not having a break in between.
Yes, I see.
So
We need that 10-minute break.
Right. So we could talk about that, or when Trustee Bruno and I sit down to go through the agenda early on, and we might have lost them. I see my. Okay, good. I don't want to see me. We can adjust accordingly. Am I hearing trying to build a little bit of time in there between?
Just for,
Yeah.
breaks between if somebody needs to use the restroom between closed session and open
So-
session.
Mr. Bruno and I can, when we're putting the items together, can try to build in a little time. As a question for me, I try to keep it at 5:30 with work schedules. If it ever did go to a 5, does that work for people? Is that hard for? Okay. So we'll try to keep to the 5:30 if we can. I know Mr. Bruno, and then I see.
Maybe go 6:15 with open.
Okay, so we could,
Or just end early.
so we can look, or we can always come back. So we'll try to work on the schedule with that. Okay.
Does it need to be on advanced planning, or would you guys just talk amongst yourself and email the
Well,
board?
we could talk amongst ourselves and then schedule. We schedule and vary whether we have closed session or not based on the items.
Okay.
6 o'clock is a standing time, so I would want, just for the public perspective, so I would want to try and back it up just because they get consistent with that. I wouldn't want to change that around for people. But President Bruno and I can sit through it, and then we'll get word out to all of you. But I'd like to keep the 6 o'clock as the start time. I just think that's the pattern that people follow. Third Wednesday is 6 o'clock. I think it might throw people off if we were starting later
Well,
or earlier.
Then they could have the courtesy not to start the meeting before you're in the room. That's all it takes.
Okay, any other suggested board items? Then I call this meeting adjourned at 6:53. I like that. Oh, yes, let's do that.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank
that's all we
you.
need.
Let's do a roll call vote as well. Trustee Lee.
Aye.
Trustee Kelly.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
President Bruno.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And now
Thank
the
you,
meeting
everybody.
is
We are adjourned.
And thank you to everybody who's here tonight.
Enjoy your trip, Steve.
Have fun, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.